Okay, I'm outside first thing in the morning, and I wanted to go over my fertilizer injector and explain the importance of a 25% pressure drop. So let me get right into it over here. Okay, so this is my injector system over here. This is my well pump. It comes out of the ground. The water goes through here, goes directly out to the garden. If that valve is open, it goes to the garden. If I shut that valve, that will detour it through here, through the injector to create a suction, and then it will go this way out to the garden. Right over here I have a spigot which fills up this bucket, and then of course I put fertilizer in it. The hose, it goes through the hose, and it goes into my regulator here so I could adjust the flow of the fertilizer going into the ejector and out. So let me get down in here. You'll notice that my pressure on my well pump is almost 40, just under 40. And if I go over to this side, you'll notice that it's the same thing, almost 40. Well, that's because my flow is going that way. It's even. This flow going straight through that pipe to that and into the irrigation is even. But once I shut this and turn on the Venturi Fertilizer Injector, watch what happens. So I'm going to open this up right here. Now the flow is going this way and it's going that way. You see, it's still just about even because I have this one open, so it's still going straight through and a little bit's going this way. Now watch what happens when I shut this. Okay, I just shut that valve. This valve's open. So if you look at the flow over here and then you look at the flow over there, you see how it changed? Okay, this flow is still up around 40. And since it's coming through here now and going around, you notice that the flow drops. Okay, the importance of having full pressure there and less pressure over here is because, and 25% less pressure, it creates a suction. And the suction goes ahead and sucks out the fertilizer through the hose into your adjustment or your regulator, through the Venturi Fertilizer Injector and out to your garden. Now if you look here real closely, there's a little weight there. If I turn this, you see how it moves up? There you go. See it move up? So that's the amount, that's how you adjust the amount of fertilizer that goes up. Now if I turn this back down, you notice it goes down. Now it's off. There's no fertilizer going through. Or maybe a little is escaping, but you know what I mean. So now if I turn this, here you go. You see the bubbles? I'm allowing some to go through. Now I'm adjusting it. If you adjust it like this, it'll take about an hour or 45 minutes for the 5-gallon bucket of fertilizer to go through. If you adjust it like this, it'll be about a half an hour. If you go all the way, probably about 15 minutes. All that fertilizer right there. All this fertilizer right in that 5-gallon bucket in 15 minutes will go. But if you adjust it down, you could go half hour, 45 minutes, an hour, and that's how long it would take for the fertilizer to go through. So if you got an injector, and a lot of people complain about this, if you're not getting any suction and it's not sucking out your fertilizer, most people think that their injector is broken, it's not working. Not true. You have to adjust the pressure over here and the pressure over there to be 25% less. Plus, for the amount of water flow and pressure, you want the right injector. This one here is a smaller injector. I think it's 1/4 or 3/8 or something like that. You can put an inch over here. I made this here bigger, so I could always expand my zones and water flow, and I could put in a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. I could put an inch, 1.5 inches. I could go up in size on the injector, depending on how much or how many irrigations I have to what part of the yard. I have 12 zones. But even with that said, I only have 1 or 2 zones open at a time, so I don't have all 12 open, so the flow is less. If I had all 12 zones open and full flow of a 3-inch pipe, then you could use like an 1.5 inch injector. But since the zones, you open one zone, it closes, you open another zone, it closes, and so you're not utilizing all the zones at one time. So that's a good size right there. So the point that I want to come across with is, it's good to have a spigot right here. It's good to have a spigot, which is well water. It's good to have a spigot so you can turn it on and you can fill your 5-gallon bucket up with water, and then you could add as much liquid fertilizer as you want in the bucket. Then you have a filter right here on a hose right here. You put that filter in there so you get debris. I'm making my own fertilizer, so there's always a little bit of leaves and stuff in there that didn't fully dissolve, so I put that down in the bucket. Plus you'll see bugs and lizards go in there and it won't suck them up and clog your hose. So when you turn it on, it goes through the hose right here. It goes up through the injector, which I have on right here. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. I want it about like that. Okay, so you can clearly see that. That's the importance of having this. A lot of people just sell that. Don't buy it. Buy this with this. Very important. If you don't have this, you can't adjust the flow, and you won't know how much is going through at one time. This here is a game changer. You got quick release. Always put quick release valves on there so you could disassemble your whole unit if you have to work on it. I could take this out right here and replace it with another. Your valves. Okay, these gauges are real easy to put in. This is just a regular PVC-T. I drilled myself a hole in there, and then I used a threader, a tapper, and then once that was tapped, I went ahead and screwed this on with a little bit of tape right there. And once you screw it on, you get it to face straight out, and I did the same thing on that side. So to put those gauges, if you have a system already, it's real easy to put those gauges in a PVC pipe. All you got to do is drill your hole, tap it, screw that in, make sure it's sealed. Same thing over there. So you can get that flowing properly. Okay, so let's go ahead and take apart the injector so you can see what the internals look like. Okay, so this is the injector. I got a quick disconnect here and a quick disconnect there so I could take it off. But let's go ahead and take this off. We'll take the hose off first. The hose comes off right here. And this is where the valve is. There's a ball valve in there that you turn. You can take the regulator, and if you noticed, there's a little piece of ball bearing in there that goes up and down like that, and there's a hole in there, and there's a little gasket in there with a couple holes. Now this is just open like that, and that holds a little ball bearing up in there. I'm going to put this on so I don't lose the ball bearing. There's also a gasket. So now, if you undo the quick disconnect on both sides, just like that, you could take it off and you could go ahead and work on your injector, or you could replace it. This is just an open hole here, and that's just an open hole which creates a suction. I'll take this off so you can see. That's just a hollow hole. And in here, there's a little ball bearing that pushes up and lets fertilizer go in, but it doesn't let water come out this way and fill up your bucket. That's what that ball bearing is. So you could open this up and you could blow in, but you can't blow out. Boy, that tasted good. Okay, so first go ahead and put all this back together. And then go ahead and screw this on like this. It's easier. Look how easy that went on. Now let's go ahead and put this back in. Make sure that's facing down. Of course, it's facing in the right direction. Okay, so now you can open and close this, and it's going to function properly. Now you take the end of this right here, and this goes in the bucket. Okay, so there you go. That's the fertilizer injector. That's how you remove it. You could clean it out. You could put it back on, and everything should work and flow properly. Okay, so I went ahead and turned it on. I put that into the fertilizer. I'm going to close this off. Now I'm going to open this over here. I'm going to close this valve. Okay, right now the flow's going through this way. You can tell by the way the pressure is. I'm going to open this up. You can see that valve went all the way up. You can see the balls down. You can see the balls coming up over here, all the way to the top. And I'll make it go all the way back down, make it go all the way back up. If that ball don't go all the way to the top like that, that means you got a little clog in there, and that's why you take this off, clean it out, and put it back in. And I think you can see the ball from up there. But let's go ahead and do this. Okay, this ball right here, the float in there, I got it down at the bottom, right here. And now, when I do this, when I turn this, you can see I'm moving it up very little, till it goes all the way up, and boom, it goes to the top. That means in here and in here, nothing's clogged. If that stayed down there and didn't raise, if it didn't raise at all, or if it only goes up that far, there's a blockage. It has to go all the way up, so you know it's free flowing. If you want a little bit of fertilizer, you set it there. You want more flow? More flow. Remember, that's the fertilizer. That's this fertilizer going through the hose into the regulator that you set the flow, and that's what makes it get sucked out and go to the garden. So I just wanted to show you this part, how important it is right there. Okay, so I got it all the way up. I want to empty that bucket over here. As soon as that bucket empties, then I'm done. Okay, so anyway, there you go. That's a nice little explanation of the whole unit and the pressure gauges, why it's important to have them, why it's important to have the regulator, and how everything flows. And I think you get a good idea of what's involved and how good these are. And once again, if you don't have a well pump, they sell them for your spigot, and you can just use your garden hose with a bucket to fertilize your whole garden. So now let's talk about fertilizer. Okay, in this bucket I have 35 gallons. In this bucket I got like 40 gallons or 45 gallons. In this bucket I have the same thing. Now this here is Mexican sunflower, but let me walk over here and I'll start from the beginning of how I make liquid compost tea fertilizer that's probably better than anything you can get in the store. So right over here I have Comfrey Bakken 14. Just about 2 weeks ago I cut that to the ground and I used it, and it's all growing back already. And next to it, okay, right over here, this is all Mexican sunflower. Look how tall they get. They're way up over my head. But what you do with these is, get right over here, you just go ahead and you cut the whole branch off, and then you just strip off the leaves, and then you fill up those barrels over there with the leaves all the way to the top, and then you fill it up with water. In about a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and 4 weeks, the leaves all turn into a liquid, and the longer you leave it in there, like 6 weeks, a month, it gets darker and darker and more potent, and you could always add more in there. So I utilize the Mexican sunflower, and I utilize the Comfrey Bakken 14. The Comfrey Bakken 14 works great, but it doesn't grow as fast. So I use about 3 times as much Mexican sunflower. So let me go over to my other section. That's not the only sunflower I grow, because I want to alternate. You see that's taller right there? Well, I'm getting ready to cut that back so I could use it as fertilizer. Over here, all of this is the last batch that I cut back. And I cut this down to the ground, maybe about 6 inches to a foot off the ground. It grows back really quick and really bushy. So this here is ready to cut back and use as compost tea, but I like it to where it gets taller. Let me come over here. Okay, look at the size of this compared to where I am now. I can't even reach. It's way up there. And if you look at what it looks like, going all the way down, you can see I cut these down really low, and it's growing in really thick. Okay, and if you look up, that's what the leaves look like. Well, this is sort of in a shady, sunny, shady area, and it's due, but I was letting these to get bigger, because if I come down here and cut, I could just stick this in the ground when I cut it, and it will start growing. So I'm trying to make the base get really fat, so when I cut them and stick them in the ground, all these little nubs over here, and you can see some in there, they're already rooting out. Can you see that? Well, all those roots down in there, that's going to be new plants that I'm going to start. So anyway, I go ahead and use the Mexican sunflower more frequently because it produces a whole lot more, and I have it widespread. The Comfrey Bakken 14, I'm over here in Florida, and I have to plant it like where I did over there, where it gets a little bit of shade. Maybe it's about, I don't know, sometimes it's 70% shade over there, or excuse me, 70% sun. Sometimes it's 50% sun. It changes, but I have the Mexican sunflower, and I have the palm trees there, plus the house to give it a little bit of shade. It doesn't like total direct sunlight, especially in Florida. It was 102 degrees in Florida. Let me move those. It was 102 degrees here in Florida just like 2 weeks ago. And right now, it's first thing in the morning, the sun's coming out. I'm sweating up a storm just doing this video. So it's easier to grow the Mexican sunflower in Florida. It just grows wild, really good, than it is the comfrey. But I like the comfrey. And I'll take what I could get out of that. I get enough out of that batch I got to fill up all 3 of these barrels to the top, and then put liquid in there, water in there, and then turn it over. But what I've been doing with that, this one here is 100% comfrey Balkan 14, and these 2 barrels over there are right around 50-50 or 75-50. I have 4 more barrels that I just got, and I'm gonna go ahead and trim back my Mexican sunflower, and I'm gonna go ahead and make some compost tea out of it right now. But I wanted to go ahead and look at this. It's almost empty right now. Do you see that? Now you notice if this is out of the water, it don't suck. But if you push it down back in the water, those bubbles go away and it sucks out. So what I do, so when it gets low like that, I just turn on my water over here. And I just add more because there's still fertilizer in there. And you can see the debris. So it's good to use that screen. But let me fill this up one more time. And that'll dilute it and get more of that fertilizer to flow through to my garden as I'm over here talking. Because I'm fixing to go get some fertilizer. I'm fixing to go get the leaves off of the Mexican sunflower and put them in the barrels to make some fertilizer. Let me just fill this up first. So anyway, this was the beginning of the video. It's the part explaining the Venturi Fertilizer Injector. But now I'm going to go ahead and make some compost tea. So with that said, let me go ahead and shut this off. Get my tripod and we'll go over there and cut some up and put them in the barrels, and I'll show you how that's done. Okay, I got myself a barrel over here. Got a machete. And I got some clippers. So you can do it either way. Take this one right here. I'll do a smaller one first. You can take the machete and you can cut it off like that. You can take these leaves, just strip it off right in the bucket like that. And you got this left over that you can plant. If you want to get a fat one, like this one over here, you just bend it over and take the machete and it will cut just like that. Then you can go ahead and strip off all these leaves. Now I use these leaves for chop and drop too, but if you look at this right here, you see these little nubs right here, and down here, and down there, and going all the way up. There's some going all the way up, and then up here you have the nodes coming out where they're grown leaves. Well, if you cut this right here, and you cut it right there, and then you cut it right there, and if you cut this right here, here and here, and you just take this, you could put it in the ground sideways, or you could turn it this way and put it in the ground. Make sure that ground is moist, and you'll have a new plant growing real quick. So also with just regular clippers, you can come in here. It's a cleaner cut, but it's harder. You need some big clippers. You could come in here with tree clippers and go that route, probably better. But I just wanted to go ahead and show you. Now, there's smaller nubs on this, but there's still nodes coming up where the leaves were coming out. So you could just plant it. All of it will grow from the bottom to the top. Okay, this is getting full. But you'll notice these are almost to the ground now. I left a little bit on that one. I'm going to chop it right now. So anyway, I wanted those lower to the ground because they come out bushier. You could come in here and trim them down as far as you want. Same thing with that. Trim them down as far as you want. And you'll notice I have a couple more coming in the ground. All I did was stick those in the ground. Okay, right here I got a good amount, but when I pack it down I can still put more in, so I'm going to go over there and get some more. Okay, so all these big pieces right over here on the ground are what came from that. I'm going to cut these up into small pieces like that, lay them in the ground that way, and stick them in the ground that way, and I'll show you how I do that in a minute. I cut all these back down to the ground, just like that, and they're just going to start getting really bushy, and they're going to start looking like these here in about another 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. They're just going to keep on growing. Okay, so let me go over there and get some more. Okay, so I got a little container, and what I'm going to do is I got some clippers. I'm just going to go ahead and start cutting these just like that. See, I just cut this like this. It's got some little nubs on there. These are all going to turn into roots. Okay, so as you can see, I went ahead and filled up this whole bucket with clippings of them. I put some tall ones and some shorter ones. Now, I'm going to go over there and cut a little bit more to fill up the barrels, and then I'm going to go ahead and plant those. Back at you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and cut these back because I need some more leaves. Okay, so here I am in here. Let me cut this down a little lower. It's only going to grow bushier. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut some of the bigger ones off. That way the small ones get bushier. Okay, so here I am with some Mexican sunflower. And I'm gonna go ahead with my trimmers and start trimming. Okay, so I didn't want to cut all of it back because I want them to be a little tall in here, but I cut back what I needed to fill up that barrel. So let's see if it fills it up. Okay, I hate those red ants. Anyways, let's go ahead and strip these down and fill this up. Okay, I'll come by later and clean that up. A lot of these big ones over here I could also utilize in the ground, but I'm leaving them there for now. But when these dry out, I put them through my wood chipper and make compost out of them. Okay, so this barrel over here is basically right to the top and it's stuffed down. So I'm going to go ahead and take it over there and make some compost tea out of it. So let's get going. Okay, I got the barrel of Mexican sunflower. Ugh. Okay, the barrel's filled up with Mexican sunflower. Okay, so here's the barrel of Mexican sunflower. I got my hose, and what we're going to do is we're going to fill this all the way up to the top with water. It may take a minute, so give me a minute. Okay, it's almost filled up now. It's getting covered. I'm going to fill it to the top. A little bit more. Okay, so as you can see, this is filled up with water right here. Now all there is to do is you take the cover, put the cover on. I'm going to put a cinder block on that. If you don't, the Mexican sunflower will lift the cover off. So right over here, okay, here's a barrel that's been fermenting. This is my stirrer stick. As you can see, there's leaves on the top. You just put it in and you stir. You do that every week, every other week, whenever you get a chance. Put the cover back on. I like this cover. It spins on and locks. Okay, so there you have it. I went ahead and chopped down some Mexican sunflower. I put it in the barrel. I filled the barrel up with water. I put the top on. Now it's going to ferment over the next several weeks until all that dissolves into good, nice compost tea, which I'm going to use on all my shrubbery, garden, watermelons, banana plants, everything I have around here. And it's 100% free. No paying $22 a gallon and nothing like that. Free is free. You gotta love it. So anyways, now I'm going to go ahead and plant all those stems that I cut out so I can have some more Mexican sunflowers growing. So let's head over there. Okay, so I went ahead and got my video camera head strap. I'm going to strap it to my head, go around, and do a little planting. Okay, I'm just going to try to plant a couple rows over here so they grow. And then I could take them out and transplant them maybe. Let's see what happens. Okay, I'm just going to put a couple tall ones in these holes. It don't matter if they're tall or not. Okay, I ain't got to do the rest on video. I'm going to do a couple rows right over here. So let me get at it. Okay, I went ahead and drilled some holes over here and planted. I'm getting down to my last ones over here. Let me just drop them in and plant. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 right along here. I got more left over, so let me go ahead and look for another spot.